It's 10:19 a.m. on the 2nd of November 2025. Over the warm Caribbean sky, north of Venezuela's Falcon Coast, an US Air Force F-22 Raptor glides steady at 23,000 feet. The pilot, Captain Mark Johnson, checks his instruments, thinking only about landing in 2 hours. Then, a sharp warning tone slices through his headset, a fire control radar lock. He knows exactly what that means. Someone just painted him for a kill. He calls on the emergency frequency, calm but firm. Venezuelan aircraft. This is an US fighter in international airspace. Cease radar illumination immediately. There's no answer. Only the long, flat scream of the alarm. 200 miles south, a Venezuelan Su-30 flanker switches to active fire control mode, tracking him like prey. Then, without warning, another sound joins the mix, the one every pilot dreads. Missile launch. AIM 120 inbound. 2 minutes, 47 seconds to impact. From the F-22's cockpit, Captain Johnson slams the throttles to afterburner and pulls hard into a climb, the jet roaring like thunder. From that moment on, every second means life or death. 3 days before that near-fatal moment, Venezuela announced a major air defense drill called Shield of the Sky 2025. The goal was to show strength, to prove its upgraded Su-30 seconds could guard national airspace. But the official notice was vague: no clear range, no duration, no flight corridors. It left a dangerous gray zone. For the Pentagon, that zone flashed red. The Caribbean's international airspace is one of the busiest in the hemisphere. Cargo routes, patrols, and radar tracks overlap within miles. One wrong pulse can turn routine into combat. Washington warned, any hostile act against an US aircraft outside Venezuela would be treated as aggression. But that message never reached every pilot. Somewhere between the diplomats and the cockpits, the warning got lost. Inside Venezuela, the exercise became a test of pride. Pilots faced pressure to impress foreign advisors. Reports from those sessions would decide future contracts and promotions. For Captain Miguel Herrera, a 23-year veteran known for his boldness, this was his chance to prove both his skill and the Su-30's strength. Meanwhile, Captain Johnson's patrol was routine, a calm orbit over neutral waters. He had no reason to expect trouble. The sky was clear, the radio quiet. Then, one radar beam changed everything. That single lock didn't just risk one life, it tested diplomacy, discipline, and deterrence. Because in a world where seconds make headlines, one impulsive move can rewrite strategy for years. For the men in those cockpits, it wasn't about politics, it was about pride and survival. And before that day ended, both nations would learn how thin the line between caution and catastrophe truly was. The first alarm blared across Captain Johnson's headset. Steady, high-pitched, impossible to ignore. His display confirmed it. A Venezuelan radar had locked on. He was in international airspace, 250 miles north of the coast. He keyed the emergency channel, his voice calm. Venezuelan aircraft. This is an US fighter in neutral airspace. Cease radar lock immediately. No reply. Only static. Inside the Venezuelan Su-30, Captain Miguel Herrera leaned toward his radar screen. The contact was clear, steady. His systems officer warned, "Sir, the target isn't entering our airspace." Herrera's jaw tightened. "Maintain lock." For seconds, both cockpits held their breath, one pilot defending himself, the other chasing validation. Then the radar tone changed. Missile launch. Johnson reacted instantly. Countermeasures! He shoved the throttles forward. The F-22's engines roared into full afterburner, pinning him to the seat. He climbed sharply, G-forces narrowing his vision as the jet cut upward. Behind him, a white trail streaked the sky, an AIM 120 air-to-air missile, Mach 4 and closing fast. Inside the Su-30, Herrera's officer stammered, "Did we just fire?" The captain nodded. "Yes, target hostile." Deep down, he knew it wasn't. The radio had failed. Authorization never came. But pride beat reason. North of them, Johnson dumped flares and radar chaff, flooding the air with false echoes. On his scope, one track stayed solid. He rolled left. Dove climbed again. Every move rehearsed 100 times in simulators but never under fire. His breathing slowed. He held on through 9 Gs as the missile drew closer 4 miles, then 2. The proximity alarm shrieked. Johnson pulled hard left, slipping sideways at the last second. The missile overshot, exploding behind him. Shrapnel peppered the left wing but missed the fuel tanks. Silence. Then his voice cracked through the radio. Raptor 6. Near miss. Minor damage. Systems green. Exiting north. Copy that, came the Hawkeye controller's calm reply. Stay on course. Support inbound. The crisis had just begun. If you think Johnson was right to hold his fire, press 9. If you would have pulled the trigger, press 1. Within minutes, the alert raced from the Caribbean command post to Washington. At the Pentagon, red lights flashed across the operations board. US fighter targeted and fired upon. International airspace. Pilot safe. The message reached Air Force One in just 5 minutes. The president listened closely, eyes fixed on a digital map glowing red over Venezuela's northern coast. Is the pilot safe? He asked. Yes, sir. Was it intentional? We can't confirm, but the launch was real. His tone hardened. Protect our aircraft. Prepare a proportional response. Across the region, that single command set everything in motion. 4 more F-22 seconds scrambled from a forward base in Colombia, streaking north to secure the area. On a carrier near Puerto Rico, F divided by A, 18 Super Hornets loaded with AGM-88 anti-radiation missiles launched into the orange evening sky. 2 EA-18G Growlers followed, activating wideband jammers that could blind radar across hundreds of miles. The calm Caribbean air turned into a living storm of radio bursts, encrypted codes, and fast-moving signals. High above, an E-2 Hawkeye circled steady, feeding the entire battlespace picture back to command. Raptor 6 stable, the controller reported, but multiple emitters active along the coast. On her glowing screen, red icons spread like fire, each one a radar or launcher preparing for something that might never come. In Caracas, panic took over the control room. "Who authorized the launch?" shouted General Vasquez. No one answered. When confirmation came that the pilot had acted alone, the room froze. "Contact Washington immediately," he ordered, "before they fire back." But diplomacy always moves slower than jets already airborne. On the coast, radar operators faced chaos, their screens filled with white noise and ghost signals. The Growler's jammers worked perfectly. Every time the Venezuelans tried to change frequency, the interference followed. Some crews shut their systems down entirely, terrified that one radar pulse could draw a missile right to their position. But that choice left them blind, and fear spread faster than orders. Far offshore, the US formation flew tight and silent, weapons armed but safeties locked. Each pilot knew the stakes. One wrong blip, one panicked move, and the Caribbean would ignite. As the sun fell behind the sea, the horizon glowed red, not from fire, but from tension that could erupt at any second. At 8:43 p.m., as night fell across the Caribbean, Venezuela finally sent its message to Washington. It was short, formal, and full of regret. The pilot, they said, had acted without authorization. He'd been arrested, his aircraft grounded, and a full investigation was underway. The foreign minister called it a tragic error made during an air exercise. But by then, the apology was too late. When the message arrived, the US response was already airborne. Fighters were deployed, Growlers were jamming, and destroyers had moved into closer range. The president's order was clear: defend, deter, but avoid escalation. The line between those words was razor thin. Then came the twist. Coastal radars that had gone silent hours earlier suddenly flickered back to life, 2 of them in the same area where the missile had been launched. On American screens, they looked active and dangerous. But when analysts compared the data, something didn't fit. The signals were moving, shifting altitude, bouncing like reflections. They weren't radars, they were decoys. For a few tense minutes, the trick worked. The Growler's sensors showed false returns, phantom pings meant to lure fire away from the real emitters. But the deception collapsed fast. Advanced filters cut through the noise, revealing the truth. Both real radars were online again, transmitting from fixed positions near Maracaibo. Now, the US had their exact coordinates. In Caracas, General Vasquez stared at the incoming report. "They know where we are," his aide whispered. "Then tell the crews to leave," he replied. But it was already too late. The night went still, seconds stretching like hours. Everyone knew what was coming next, and before dawn, the balance of power in the Caribbean sky would shift forever. If you think the apology could still stop the strike, press 9. If you believe the US had no choice but to finish what had begun, press 1. At 9:12 p.m., the sky over the Caribbean came alive. The E-2 Hawkeye picked up 2 radar signatures deep inside Venezuela, the same ones linked to the earlier missile launch. The command order followed instantly: neutralize the threat. 2F, divided by A-18 Super Hornets, broke formation, dropping to low altitude to hide from detection. Magnum, one pilot called, launching an AGM-88 HARM missile. A second followed 3 seconds later. Both rockets screamed away, homing on the radar beam still flickering from the coast. The operators below noticed the spikes on their screens, realized too late what they had triggered, and tried to shut down, but the missiles already had their fix. The first impact came seconds later, a white flash lighting the coastline and shaking the air. The second radar went dark, but its backup antenna blinked once more, sending a brief pulse that sealed its fate. A Growler picked up the echo and relayed targeting data. 2 more harms leapt from the Hornets, streaking low and fast. 45 seconds later, another blast rolled through the night. From the E-2 screen, both enemy signals vanished. "Targets neutralized," Lieutenant Chin reported. The airwaves went silent. The Growlers stopped their jamming sweep, and the strike group began to turn north. For a long moment, only engine noise and radio static filled the dark. The sea below glowed faintly under moonlight, calm again but haunted. In Caracas, General Vasquez stared at the damage report. 2 radar sites destroyed, crews evacuated, defensive network blind. His order was short: cease all transmissions, stand down. He knew one more move could burn the country. On the runway, Captain Johnson sat beside his F-22, its left wing peppered with shrapnel holes. Technicians worked quietly as he listened to the hum of distant engines. The last words from his headset echoed in his mind: Raptor 6, support inbound. He survived, but the weight of what followed would last much longer than the scars on his aircraft. The Caribbean night had gone still again, but it wasn't peace. It was only the breath before the next storm. If you believe those strikes were justified, press 1. If you think they went too far, press 9. By midnight, the Caribbean sky was calm again. No more radar pings, no warning tones, just wind and static. The strike was over. 2 Venezuelan radar sites lay in ruins, their remains smoking under faint moonlight. Dozens of technicians evacuated, shaken but alive. For the US, no aircraft lost, no pilots hurt, only one F-22 with a torn wing, and a story that would echo far beyond that night. Washington released a short statement before dawn. The United States acted in self-defense after a hostile missile launch against a patrol aircraft in international airspace. No threats, no boasting, just a message that said, "We see everything, and we will respond." In Caracas, the official reply was equally measured. "A pilot acted without orders," it read. "Venezuela deeply regrets the incident, but everyone understood the truth. The apology came after the consequences." Inside defense circles, the lessons were already being studied. Analysts called it the Maracaibo incident, a modern case study in how one radar pulse can rewrite regional stability. The operation showed how quickly the US could move. F, 22 seconds within minutes. F, divided by A-18 seconds, and Growlers within hours, coordinated under total electronic dominance. It was a display meant not for Venezuela, but for anyone watching the Caribbean with ambition. For the Venezuelan forces, it was a painful awakening. Their radars, once symbols of power, had turned into beacons that drew fire. For the US, it was proof that discipline, not firepower, prevents wars. One pilot's restraint had stopped a missile from sparking a global chain reaction. At 2 a.m., Captain Johnson walked back to his aircraft. Technicians had finished sealing the holes in its left wing. He ran his hand over the patchwork metal and looked toward the dark sea. Somewhere beyond the horizon, silence held the world in balance. This time, it ended with an apology and a warning. But next time, there might not be 10 seconds to decide. If you want more stories like this, real moments where the world almost changed, press 1 to subscribe or 9 to comment your thoughts below.